History teaches everything, including the future. What does this mean? Why is it important to understand where we've been in education so we can understand where we are and where we are headed? In other words, why should I care about this? I cannot answer this fundamental question for you. Rather, consider yourself to be on the path of discovery. Think about why you should care about this theory or that perspective or this person's model. What does this mean to you as an educator and future reading specialist? This is not a course about strategies. This is a course about perspectives. As we look through the lenses of history, you will be developing your own perspective of the reading process. Along the way, you should think about the strategies you use. Where did they get their roots? Are they still effective? Are they based on sound educational research, or are you operating within an outdated frame of thinking? We can trace the roots of educational theory all the way back to ancient Greece and those three famous philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Did you know that Socrates was Plato's teacher, who then taught Aristotle? According to our text, many people in ancient Greece used myths to understand the universe. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were the divergent thinkers of their time. They sought to explain the universe in rational terms, rather than through stories. Plato developed the idea that the human mind is like a muscle that needs to be exercised, generally through the memorization and recitation of texts. You may think that mental discipline theory is outdated and of no relevance to you anymore. In fact, this theory still plays a strong role in education today. Think about your classroom. Do you use repeated readings? Have children memorize poems? Drill letters, sight words, or vocabulary? Jot down some ways you might use mental discipline theory in your classroom, in your note-taking chart. Associationism also traces its roots to ancient Greece and the teachings of Aristotle. Associationism is basically the idea that events or ideas become associated with one another in the mind to result in learning. A modern associationist was English poet and philosopher John Locke. In 1690, Locke challenged mental discipline theory with his tabula rasa, or blank slate theory. Locke argued that we are born with blank slates, and that all learning results as a consequence of the individual's interaction with the environment. Locke argued that thus education should begin in early childhood in order to take advantage of developing the young child's mind in a way that would lead to the betterment of society. Elements of associationism still play a strong role in education today. Think about your classroom. Do you talk about schema? Access background knowledge? Encourage your students to make personal connections or text-to-text connections? Jot down some ways you use associationism within your classroom in your note-taking chart. By the late 18th, early 19th century, some scholars were beginning to question the blank slate theory. In 1762, the publication of a novel entitled Émile by Jean-Jacques Rousseau told a story about a young boy raised in nature away from the evils of society. Like the novel, Rousseau believed that children should be allowed to unfold and develop naturally, with little interference from adults. He believed that children should be permitted and encouraged to follow their natural curiosities and learn by doing, rather than striving to eliminate these curiosities. In 1799, Johann Pestalozzi, a Swiss educator who was greatly influenced by the writings of Rousseau, started establishing schools throughout Switzerland and Germany. Like Rousseau, Pestalozzi believed in the natural unfolding of children, but he also believed that children would benefit from informal instruction from adults to facilitate their learning. He believed that schools should be warm and nurturing and should stimulate children's natural curiosity for learning. He encouraged teachers to use manipulatives, engage the senses, and encourage self-expression to help children learn. Building on this idea, the first kindergarten was opened in Germany by Friedrich Froebel in 1837. Literally translated as children's garden, this was envisioned to be a place where small children can grow and learn before entering elementary school. Elements of unfoldment theory still play a strong role in education today. Think about your classroom. Do you use learning centers? Encourage discovery learning? Believe in the power of students' choices? Jot down some ways you use unfoldment theory within your classroom in your note-taking chart. In the late 19th century, the only recognized scientific fields were life sciences and physical sciences. The field of psychology as we know it was yet unheard of. Wilhelm Wundt, a German doctor, is widely regarded as the father of psychology. In 1879, Wundt founded one of the first formal laboratories for psychological research at the University of Leipzig. By creating this laboratory, he was able to explore the nature of religious beliefs, identify mental disorders and abnormal behavior, and map damaged areas of the human brain. By doing this, he was able to establish psychology as a separate science from other topics. In 1888, James McKean Cattell, a former student of Wundt and professor at the University of Pennsylvania, became the first in the United States with the title Professor of Psychology. Cattell attempted to create tests to measure mental intelligence, but his methods were deemed unreliable, although they did pave the way for the development of more accurate measures. In 1896, a French ophthalmologist named Louis Geval was the first to describe eye movements during reading. He reported that eyes do not move continuously along a line of text, but rather they make short, rapid movements, intermingled with short stops. Geval's observations were characterized by a reliance on naked eye observation of eye movements in the absence of technology. Elements of structuralism still play a strong role in education today. Think about your classroom. Do you use pointers or sentence strips? Encourage emergent readers to look at the print? Provide students with tracking devices who frequently lose their place when reading? Jot down some ways you use structuralism within your classroom in your note-taking chart.